Welcome to the Dr. John Char Holistic Health Show. In my last show, we talked about your stools and are they healthy? We're going to go more in detail about that. And the last show, we told you about 5 different things you have to look at when you peek down in your toilet bowl and see your stools. We're going to show you some pictures of how the stools formation looks like and what it means. So we're going to more detail because we're going to be discussing things that you might not be familiar about with when you go look at your stools. Do you have mucus in your stools? Is your stools a green color? We talk about spleen chi deficiencies. Do you have loose stools, and what are good recipes for it? Talk about liver chi, kidney chi, and pellet stool and constipation. So we'll be talking about all these infrequent stools and constipation again. What's healthy and what's not. Yellow stools, dark stools, and bright red stools, pale or clay colored stools, and bowel transit time. There's a lot of information for you to process. So this is what I'm trying to do, is I'm going to make you aware of it, and then if you get a chance to, go back to live streaming and review the sessions that I went on the last show, telling you about the different characteristics of looking at and diagnosing your stools and see if you're healthy. So let's talk about a little bit more about the stools again. Some people say, wow, I got some red looking stools coming out. Well, the first instinct seeing red colored stools in the toilet would be panic. But before you speed dial your doctor, think about what you ate several hours ago. If it was a beet or a bright red popsicle, that might be the culprit for creating those colored stools. But if it's obviously a stake of red blood in the stools, in the toilet, or in the toilet paper, then it is given that you're bleeding somewhere inside. There's still not necessarily any reason to panic. The cause could be something as benign as a hemorrhoid, or just a small fissure caused by staining to go. That said, it's wise idea to discuss with your doctor if you're straining or often sense that you can lead to a painful hemorrhoids. Also, if you've never seen blood before, it's definitely worth having your doctor rule out more serious cases or causes, rather, like colon cancer. What if your stools are too dark? Well, if your stools is suddenly black and looks like tar-like, the culprit could be lurking in your daily vitamin pill. Iron supplementation or its own, or when it's included in a multivitamin, can have an effect on your stools. But if you haven't recently taken an extra iron and you see the sort of change, you might make an appointment to see your doctor. If there is bleeding higher up in the GI tract, like the stomach or esophagus, the results can be stools that look like it's black or tar-like. It's very useful information for the doctor to know if what you're seeing is black or bright red, because it gives him a chance or clue to find the location of the bleeding. In either case, I strongly urge anyone who has seen blood in their stools to get checked out by your doctor. What about floating stools? And what about floating stools that smell? These ideal torpedoes like poops should sink when they hit the toilet water. But when the body isn't properly absorbing the fat from the food you eat, it ends up being excreted in your stools. The results can be that the stools that are yellowish in color, greasy in consistency, foul smelling, and that floats in your toilet can be what is it? Certain conditions like celiac disease can cause malabsorption problems. And since essential nutrients could also be lost among the unabsorbed fat, it's important to see your doctor if you're experiencing this problem. These fatty, smelly stools are also one of the most unpleasant side effects of eating foods that contains the cholesterol, the false fat found in some chips and other fried snacks. Or taking the weight loss drug Xenical, or its over-the-counter cousin Alii. Okay, so now let's talk about foul-smelling stews. How many times have you gone into a group session and everybody says, "What is happening? I smell somebody fart." It's a colloquialism for poop. Okay, so soft, foul-smelling stews that float, stick to the side of the bowl, or are difficult to flush away means that it's increased fat in the stews, called stools. Stews are sometimes also pale. Although these stews can result from eating a high-fat meal, the stews take on this appearance regularly that they may be an underlying disorder. So it can be pale. Remember you're lacking some of the bile that comes in there, and then you can get a pale stew. Lipase, this is the fat enzyme, a digestive enzyme produced by the pancreas, and bile salts from the liver are needed to break down and absorb fat. Any conditions that result in decreased lipase or bile salts can cause stools, such as pancreatic insufficiency, means the pancreas is not being able to secrete enough insulin to control glucose. Or you might have beta cells. They call it beta cell breakdown over a period of 10 years or more. And you can see there's not enough beta cells are making the formation up of the pancreas, and then the pancreas is insufficient enough to produce enough insulin to control your glucose. Chronic pancreatitis may be due to alcoholism or gallstones. Symptoms may include bouts of abdominal or back pain. Okay, a lot of my patients do have what? Back pain. Majority of people come in for pain management or control or elimination of the pain, come for relief of backache pains, knee pains, and feet pains. I would say about 70%. And about 15-20% are usually something to do with the hands, pain in the hands and coming from the neck. So if you have a chronic pancreatitis, it can be causing a back pain. And later, when you get abdominal kind of pain, then abdominal bloating and changes in the stools, weight loss, and diabetes. So you see, those are kind of combinations that can happen with soft, foul-smelling stews. Pancreatic cancer, the 5th leading cancer in the United States. What symptoms may be, including abdominal pain, weight loss, loss of appetite, and you might have a metallic taste in your mouth and diarrhea. See, so there's really a crossover. When you have diarrhea, soft-smelling stews, you can get things like, oh, you're worried about candida, you're worried about parasites, you can be also worried about your stools, what kind of conditions these stools in relationship to your pancreas. Okay? Sclerotic cholangitis. Symptoms may include fatigue, itchy skin, right side pain, fever and chills, jaundice, dark urine, and pale stools. These are also associated with ulcerative colitis. Okay. And what is the cholangitis? Cholangitis. It is an obstruction of the bile duct by gallstones. Okay. So now you got to go to your doctor and check out gallstones. Bacterial overgrowth. Unwanted bacteria in the small intestines decongregate bile acids, interfering with fat absorption. What are the causes? Hyperchloridria means what? You have imbalance of the hydrochloric acid in your system to break down the proteins to amino acid, chronic stress, diabetes, immune deficiencies, inadequate fiber, and the use of oral contraceptives and other medications. So this bacterial overgrowth is really important to check. And one of the things you can tell is if you're having smelly stools, okay, foul-smelling stools. Okay, the steatorrhea can also be caused by infections, medications, or conditions that disrupt the absorptive lining of the intestines, such as Crohn's disease and celiac disease. Now, fat-soluble vitamin deficiency may also develop in time. So you see, the vitamin's going to be affected. And the fat-soluble vitamins that it can affect are vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and K. These signs include night blindness, acne, and a lower immune function. That's vitamin A deficiency. And excessive bruising or bleeding, vitamin K deficiencies. See? So these are loose stools. Now, what about mucus in your stools? Well, mucus in the stools often indicates inflammation in the intestines. Mucus in the stools can occur with either constipation or diarrhea. It is usually whitish in color. You ever seen a stool whitish in color? Well, if you look at it and it's whitish, then be alerted that this is mucus in the stools. According to alternative practitioners, the more common cause of mucus in stools includes bacteria overgrowth and food allergies and sensitivities. They are often easily corrected with dietary change and supplements. With bacterial overgrowth, bloating and gas usually worsens after eating any sugar, whether it's white sugar, bread, pasta, rye, rice, or milk, which contains the sugar lactase. In contrast, people with food allergies and sensitivities react to these specific foods. Other causes of mucus in the stools are ulcerative colitis, Crohn's diseases, celiac diseases, and diverticulosis. So, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, and celiac disease are often accompanied by diarrhea. Rectal bleeding can also occur with ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease. If there are no underlying disorder present, mucus in stools, abdominal bloating, constipation are often helped by increasing water intake and taking herbal foods, substances that form a smooth film that soothes the intestinal lining. So, some of these herbs include slippery elm and marshmallow. Okay? And what you can do, you can make a tea out of this. The Demulcent tea can be also made by adding 1 cup of hot water to 1 teaspoon of ground flaxseed and soaking it overnight. That can help you with the mucus in the stools. So now, what about mucus in the stools? Is it really connected with mucus in when you go ahead and say, I can't expurgate the mucus out of your lungs and everything? And then you start coughing, you always kind of clear your throat. Where does it come from? Does it come from just from the lungs itself? No. it starts off in the small intestines. And it's a product of what the small intestines, remember, receives the bile coming back from the liver, and the thing breaks down the fat, and it can recirculate into the small intestines. And guess what the small intestines do? It sends it to the bloodstream. And so if you got mucus coming in that area, it will go into the small intestines, back into bloodstream, and all of a sudden it gets over the body, and of course it can go into the area of the heart. And what happens? All these substrates coming into, or the toxins coming into the heart, it goes circulating, and it can go to the lung, and it can go back to the brain and all different parts of the body. So mucus is not only from the nose that you see it, but it comes from the small intestines. So if you have something like a sinusitis, or you got a blocked passage in your nose, short of having a deviated septum, you can look at the small intestines and start trying to clean out your digestive system. And what you do is improve the excretion of these toxins through the drainage system, your lymph, okay, the lymph glands, your bowels, and your urine through your bladder and kidney, okay? So, really important. Now, let's talk about green stools. I don't see too many people talk about green stools. But the liver constantly secretes a bright green fluid called bile into the small intestines. Or it is either that, or it maintains it or stores it back in the gallbladder. The bile is needed to what? Absorb fat and fat-soluble vitamins. It also helps to soften the stools. And it's responsible for giving stools their characteristic brownish color. So bile is important. So now you can tell that the bile has a great amount of influence on the color of your stools. As bile makes its way through the intestines, it progressively changes color from green to yellow to brown due to the action of what? The bacteria in the large intestines on the bile salts. So what's important? Again, we talked about bacteria. And where is the bacteria? Usually kind of found in the intestines. Usually it's in towards the transverse colon on the left side, or the sigmoid flexure. And you can see in that particular area, or sigmoid, and you see in that particular area you have where the bacteria likes to congregate, the friendly bacteria or the harmful bacteria, and that can cause gas, okay? If you have fermented bacteria, okay? So, green stools often indicates that food has passed through the intestines faster than normal, called bowel transit time, before it could be changed from a green to a brown. Diarrhea decreases bowel transit times, so any condition that causes diarrhea can result in green stools. Other causes of green stools include laxative use. If you use a lot of laxative, you can get green stools, okay? Antibiotic uses affects your bacteria in your colon. Medication side effects, food poisoning, celiac disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, disease of small intestines, malabsorption, irritable bowel syndrome, bacterial overgrowth, infectious diarrhea, especially salmonella and giardia, okay, and travels diarrhea. People go on trips and get diarrhea, and cancer. The foods and supplements that can cause green stools also includes chlorophyll, orange supplements, and algae. So you see, the green stools are important because it has a lot of different relationships, how these stools are colored, how they end up being colored when you see it in the toilet bowl. Okay. So now, I talked about in the previous show about the spleen qi deficiency. It's not really talking about the spleen, because in Chinese medicine, this is spleen qi deficiency. And the symptoms of spleen qi deficiencies can be your weakness or pale, bright face, or shallow breathing, low, soft voice, a little desire to speak, a poor appetite, prolonged headaches, fatigue, loose stools, dizziness, tired eyes, dislike cold, greasy foods, headache after exertion, and the symptoms are worse in the morning, abdominal discomfort which feels better when pressure is applied, and indigestion, and it keeps going on. Bloating and gas, weak limbs, tongue, pale or normal tongue may have these swollen effects. Pulse, weak pulse. These related conditions can also be gastric or duodenal ulcers, dyspepsia, hepatitis, anemia. Okay, what are the herbs that are used for spleen qi deficiency? These are some of the herbs that are believed to help spleen deficiency. So now you can use your diet now to help the spleen deficiency. Okay, you can use ginseng, astragalus. You can use the foods that strengthen the spleen, beef, root vegetables. Now let me tell you about beef. And you're going to say, well, I can eat beef, that's going to help. But there's certain types of beef you might want to look at. Instead of corn-fed beef, which is sold most of the market, you can look at grass-fed beef. And you know, some of the stores are now, carrying grass-fed beef because they recognize that people are looking out for grass-fed beef. Okay, root vegetables. Now, I'm not totally in favor sometimes of root vegetables like the beets and the carrots and the potatoes, because some of these are what you call contributors to, guess what, your diabetes 2 situations or glucose. So I try to have as much as possible, eat the foods that are grown above the earth, the greens, the chlorophyll things like, like lettuce, not iceberg lettuce, but regular maybe manila lettuce or that type of lettuce, really rich in chlorophyll, and cucumbers and celery, things like that. Those are good. Warm food, soups, warming spices like black pepper, ginger, and cumin. Okay, so now we're going to give you some recipes right here. I'm going to give you some recipes, and these are really neat recipes that help with the qi deficiencies. Okay, let me see if I can find it. All right. Now, these include the cinnamon. Okay, that's a really good tea that you can do to help with your spleen qi deficiencies. Okay, you can find it here. Okay, let me see now. All right, and these are really good. Now here we are, the ginger tea recipe. I'll bring the ginger tea recipe. So here we go. The ginger tea recipe requires 4 cups of water, 2-inch piece of fresh ginger root, and optional, you can put honey and lemon slice, lemon slice. Peel the ginger root and slice it into thin slices. Bring the water to a boil in a saucepan. Once it is boiling, add the ginger. Cover it and reduce it to a simmering for 15 to 20 minutes. Strain the tea. Add honey and lemon to taste. Keep in mind that if you are making ginger tea as a home remedy during cold and flu seasons, sweeteners are not recommended. Again, keep in mind that if you are making ginger tea as a home remedy during the cold and flu seasons, sweeteners are not recommended. The honey is not recommended. Now, you might want to alternate this and use a cinnamon tea recipe. So cinnamon is one of the oldest known spices. It has a delicious, natural sweet flavor that many people love. Cinnamon has been used traditionally, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, for various health conditions from indigestion to cold. It is believed to have other health benefits. So here's what it is for your cinnamon tea recipe. Prep time 3 minutes. Cook for 3 minutes. Total 6 minutes. Ingredients includes 1 cinnamon stick, 1 cup of boiling water, 1 regular or decaffeinated black tea bag, erythritol, stevia, or another sweeteners to taste. Place the cinnamon stick in a cup, add the boiling water, steep and cover it for 10 minutes. Add the tea bag, sleep for 1 to 3 minutes, and sweeten your taste if desired. So that's using cinnamon and the ginger tea. So here's sort of an overview of your bowel movements and your observation of your bowel and how you can detect if your bowels are healthy or not, or you are healthy in your digestive system. So it was nice talking to you about your bowel. Go take a look in the toilet bowl and, hey, tell me what you think. Are you healthy or you need help?